Napoleon in Egypt, From the Pyramids to Acre, 1798, 1801, May 1798. A great French invasion force moves across the Mediterranean. 55,000 men are packed into 300-plus transport ships, guarded by 13 ships of the line. On the mightiest of them, a 120-gun behemoth named L'Orient sails General Napoleon Bonaparte. The celebrated hero of the Italian campaign has received new orders. He is to lead an expedition east to Egypt, the richest province of the Ottoman Empire, and, to educated Europeans, a land of ancient mystery and marvels. After 6 years of war in Europe, the French Republic now faces one last enemy: Great Britain. Seizing Egypt could strike a heavy blow at Britain, disrupting trade in the eastern Mediterranean and threatening its lifeline to India and the East. Those profitable routes fund British war efforts. France also claims a revolutionary and civilizing mission to free Egypt's people from superstition and feudalism. But the corrupt Directory sees two more advantages: a chance to plunder wealth and to send a dangerously popular, ambitious general far from Paris, where conspiracies and coups never go unnoticed. Napoleon is delighted. He's pushed hard to make this expedition happen. It's a chance to win new glory, to follow in the footsteps of his heroes Julius Caesar and Alexander the Great. Like Alexander, Napoleon even toys with the wild idea of marching to India to strike the British there. Europe is too small, he tells his secretary Bourrienne. We must go to the east. There, the greatest glory is won. But the Mediterranean is dangerous for France. On land, Republican armies have triumphed. At sea, Britain dominates, beating Spain at Cape St. Vincent and the Dutch at Camperdown. Rear Admiral Horatio Nelson, with 14 ships of the line, scours the sea. Nelson knows a large French fleet has left Toulon, but not its destination. Unseen, the French slip south along the Italian coast. On 9 June, they arrive at Malta. Malta is ruled by the Knights of St. John, a crusading military order. France wants the island as a naval base and a thorn in Britain's side. In 1565, the Knights withstood a massive Ottoman siege for 3 months. Now, despised by locals and divided, they surrender to Napoleon in just 2 days. In 6 days on Malta, Napoleon overhauls the archaic government, opens schools, abolishes slavery, and demands money and supplies. He sails for Egypt, leaving General Vaubois with a 5,000-man garrison. But where is the British fleet? In May, Nelson's ships were scattered by storms. He regroups, guesses Napoleon's target, and races to intercept. On the foggy night of the 22nd, Nelson passes within tens of miles of the French. Neither side sees the other. He reaches Alexandria and finds nothing. Frustrated, he waits 24 hours, then turns north to continue the hunt. A few hours later, the first French ships appear off Alexandria. Knowing British warships are near, Napoleon orders an immediate landing. 5,000 men go ashore at night, storm Alexandria at dawn, and quickly overcome its garrison. The rest of the army lands safely. Napoleon has brought 38,000 soldiers, mostly veterans of Italy. 5 infantry divisions under Bon, Desai, Kleber, Menou, and Régnier. A single cavalry division under the remarkable Thomas Alexandre Dumas, France's first black general, born in Saint-Domingue, Haiti, to a French aristocrat and an enslaved African woman, already famed in Italy, where Austrians dubbed him the Black Devil. Also aboard, familiar faces: Chief of Staff Berthier, Brigadiers Murat, Lannes, and Marmont, and 167 savant scholars, artists, engineers, even balloonists, the Commission of Arts and Sciences, come to study Egypt's wonders. Alexandria disappoints them all. The fabled city of Alexander has become a shabby town of 6,000ers, shaken by quakes and neglect. Egypt is nominally Ottoman, But real power lies with Mamluk warlords, especially Murad Bey and Ibrahim Bey. Once slave soldiers of the Caliphate, the Mamluks are superb horsemen and fearless fighters. They rule with an iron fist, seizing wealth and leaving the peasants impoverished. To most Egyptians, they are foreign overlords, a resentment Napoleon hopes to exploit with propaganda. He proclaims to the people of Egypt, "I came to restore your rights and punish the usurpers. I honor Allah, His Prophet, and the Quran." In Cairo, Murad and Ibrahim gather Mamluk leaders at Al-Azhar Mosque and agree to raise an army to crush the invaders. Napoleon opts for speed. Less than 24 hours after landing, he marches on Cairo, misjudging the brutal heat and wind-scoured desert. He drives his men forward without water. Hundreds die. Some commit suicide to escape the agony. Bedouin horsemen circle like vultures, robbing, torturing, killing stragglers. Even loyal lieutenants Lanz and Murat grumble openly. It takes 4 days to cover 72 kilometers to Damanhur, where the army finally rests and resupplies. Then word arrives. A large Mamluk force under Murad Bey approaches from the southeast. The French move to meet them at Shubra Kit on the Nile. 4,000 Mamluk cavalry glitter into view, gold-laced silks, jeweled arms, pistols, sabers, daggers, spears. Murad boasts he'll cut off French heads like melons, but for all their bravado, the Mamluks lack the discipline and tactics to face a modern army. Napoleon forms vast squares. The cavalry wheels helplessly, unable to break the hedge of bayonets. After 2 hours, the Mamluks withdraw with 1,000 losses. French losses are negligible. Morale soars after the misery of the march. The Mamluks fall back to Mbabe, across the river from Cairo there, 15 km north of Egypt's famous pyramids. They will make a stand. 21st July, in the blazing noon heat, Napoleon's 25,000 advance in 5 giant squares, cavalry and baggage in the center, artillery on the corners. Murad, ever bold, crosses to the west bank of the Nile, leaving Ibrahim on the east. Their total strength is debated. Elite Mamluk, horse perhaps 6,000 hold ground between Bikatil and the fortified town of Mbabe, garrisoned by Ottoman infantry and local militia. Napoleon's plan is simple. Smash the center, then roll up the right along the river. 1530, Desai and Renier push forward, but rough ground disorders their line. Murad seizes the moment. His cavalry charges. French ranks close. They hold fire until the last second, then unleash shattering volleys. Horses and riders crash down. Survivors cannot face the relentless musketry. They fall back, regroup, and charge again, only to be broken once more. Many surrender or flee. Napoleon sends in Bonn and Vial. The Mamluks charge yet again, and again they're wrecked on French muskets and bayonets. With the cavalry beaten, Bonn and Vial storm Mbabe. The town becomes a slaughterhouse. Survivors drown by the hundreds in the Nile. Murad rides for Giza, then south up the river. Ibrahim, watching from across the water, retreats into Cairo. In 2 hours, it's a crushing victory, the Battle of the Pyramids. The Mamluks lose 5,000 plus, including much of their elite cavalry and leadership. French losses are under 300, mostly wounded. On 24th of July, Napoleon enters Cairo. Parts of the city lie burned and deserted, torched by the Mamluks as they fled. Napoleon observes, "It is hard to find a richer land and a more wretched, ignorant, and brutal people." Harsh words, but Cairo, a city of 200,000 plus, the heart of Egypt, is now French. With the Mamluks scattered, Napoleon's dream of eastern conquests seems within reach. 8 days later, that dream shatters. At sea, Nelson's Mediterranean squadron has never stopped hunting. On 1st August, he finds the French anchored in Aboukir Bay. 14 British ships against 13 French, and he attacks that evening. The result is complete, stunning victory. The giant Lorient explodes in a cataclysmic blast. By night's end, Britain has destroyed or captured 11 French ships and taken 3,000 plus prisoners. Napoleon is marooned in Egypt, and much of the army's money has gone down with Lorient. Napoleon doesn't despair. The crisis steals him. There are only two options now: live off the land in a hostile country or die. While Desai pursues Murad up the Nile, Napoleon reforms Egypt's administration, sweeping away feudal structures, creating a postal service and hospitals, introducing a new tax system. He founds the Institut d'Egypte for research and science. He shows open respect for Islam, funding mosques, encouraging religious festivals. Rumors later claim he converted to Islam. In truth, it was a political gambit to win support. Personal troubles mount. News reaches him that Josephine has rekindled an old affair gossip across Paris. Napoleon consoles himself with his own affairs, including with an officer's wife. French attempts to win over locals fail. Most Egyptians see them as foreign invaders and infidels. Small revolts flare in the Delta and are harshly suppressed. In September, Sultan Selim III of Constantinople proclaims holy war. Egypt is a powder keg. Cairo, 21 October 1798. General Dupuy, the city's military governor, moves to disperse riots. He finds barricades rising. He's attacked and killed. The city erupts. The French answer with ruthless force. Around 300 French die. Several thousand Egyptians are killed. Napoleon ostentatiously pardons the ringleaders, then coolly informs Berthier that any rebel caught with a weapon will be beheaded and thrown into the Nile. Control is restored in blood, but the lesson is clear. Egypt's hearts and minds will not be won. Months pass in Cairo. Communication with France is scarce. Men grow homesick. Supplies, including wine, dwindle. Bubonic plague breaks out, weakening the army further. Only the south sees action. With 2,800 men, Desai chases Murad deep into Upper Egypt. A young cavalry brigadier, Louis-Nicolas Davout, 28, distinguishes himself. On 22 January 1799, he and Desai maul Murad's forces, though the Bey himself escapes. These victories change little. France is 2,600 kilometers away. Reinforcements or return seem impossible. Napoleon gambles on diplomacy. Foreign Minister Talleyrand, talented, eloquent, unscrupulous, had backed the expedition, promising to go personally to Constantinople to placate the Sultan and win Egypt for France. He never leaves Paris. The Sultan is furious. No talks and no compromise. Orders go out across the empire. Raise armies to expel the invaders. Cut off them, sick. Surrounded by hostility, Napoleon decides to do what Alexander would do: attack. February 1799. Napoleon holds Egypt, but revolts simmer. The British have destroyed his fleet. The Sultan gathers two large Ottoman armies to retake the country. Napoleon won't wait. He'll strike first, against the force assembling in Syria, rumored at 50,000 men. On 10th of February, he leads 13,000 across the Sinai toward the Holy Land, all he can spare while garrisoning Egypt. Speed and surprise are vital, but trouble starts at once. The French again underestimate the desert's heat and hardship. Water runs short. Food dwindles. At El Arish, they find an unexpected 3,000-man garrison. An 11-day siege costs 400 casualties, losses Napoleon can ill afford. The defenders capitulate on generous terms. Disarmed, paroled for a year. The army moves into Palestine green plains, and orchards bring relief after the desert. On 24th of February, they seize Gaza, finding welcome stores of food and ammunition. Next target, Jaffa, held by 5,000 Ottomans. French guns pound the walls until a breach opens. Napoleon sends a messenger to offer surrender. The Ottomans behead him and display the head on the ramparts. Enraged French troops storm the breach, overwhelm the defenders, then sack the city for 24 hours. "The sight was horrible," wrote a French eyewitness. "Shots, the cries of women and the old, heaps of bodies, the smell of blood, victors quarreling over plunder. Women and children are killed. 2,000 Ottoman soldiers die." The next day, order returns, but new horrors await. Napoleon now holds 3,000 prisoners, promised their lives. He has too few men to guard them, too little food to feed them. Some are from El Arish. They broke their oath, and they beheaded his envoy. After consulting his officers, Napoleon orders the prisoners executed. For 3 days, batches are marched to the beach and killed, some by musketry, some thrown into the sea. On the 3rd day, the troops are told to use bayonets to save ammunition. Napoleon would defend the massacre for the rest of his life. "I had no choice," he insisted years later. But the killings hand his enemies powerful propaganda and stiffen Ottoman resolve. As if by divine judgment, plague spreads. Hundreds of French soldiers fall ill. Napoleon shows personal courage, visiting the sick in hospital, an episode later immortalized by his own propaganda. He marches on his main objective, Acre, the storied Crusader port, seat of the ruthless governor Ahmad Pasha al-Jazar, the Butcher. He rejects Napoleon's demand to surrender. Worse, 2 British warships slip into Acre with help. Napoleon reaches Mount Carmel, 20 kilometers south, just in time to see the British seize a coastal convoy carrying the siege guns he desperately needs. Without them, a quick siege is unlikely. 18th of March, the French dig in before Acre. The city has 250 guns, the sea to its back, and 2-meter-thick land walls. The British control the sea, keeping supplies flowing, landing marines and ships' guns, even turning captured French cannon against their former owners. The British commander, Commodore Sidney Smith, is energetic and inventive. A French émigré, Antoine de Philippos, once Napoleon's classmate, advises the defense. 10 days in, the French bombard. A small breach opens. Then a storm of counterfire smashes their batteries. 40 gunners killed, all but 3 guns silenced. Napoleon tries assault ladders. A hidden ditch wrecks the attack. Defenders pour musket fire and hurl stones. The French fall back in disorder. Al-Jazar offers bounties for French heads. Any left behind will be beheaded. Acre is a stalemate. Napoleon waits for heavier guns from Alexandria. Then grim news arrives. The Northern Ottoman army, 40,000 strong, is on the move. Napoleon can spare only 4,000 to meet it. The odds are insane, but he trusts his troops, and especially his officers. Unsure of the enemy's line of march, he splits his forces. 8th of April at Nazareth, Junot routs cavalry 10 times his number. 3 days later at Cana, Kleber defeats 5,000. Murat ambushes another column north of the Sea of Galilee. On the 15th, Kleber learns the main Ottoman force has turned south, camping near Givat Hamoreh, about 13 kilometers from Mount Tabor. Hungry for glory, he marches at night to surprise them at dawn, but misjudges the distance. Sunrise reveals 1,500 French in the open, facing 35,000. Kleber's division forms squares and holds for 10 hours under a blazing sun. Ammunition runs low. They need help desperately. Napoleon is racing to them with 2,500 men. He arrives just in time, strikes the enemy rear, and panic spreads through the mostly peasant levies. Kleber counterattacks. The Ottoman army breaks. For under 300 casualties, Napoleon has destroyed a host and secured Palestine. Acre should now be doomed. But the French can't stop British resupply. Their own ammo is so scarce, men scavenge spent shot to fire again. Plague worsens, 20 new cases daily. On 24th of April, a mine blows a tower. Napoleon orders an immediate assault. Grenadiers surge forward and are blasted back. Time is running out. The Ottoman army gathering on roads will soon sail. Napoleon dreads a Sinai crossing in high summer, a death march. At last, on 7th of May, the siege guns arrive. Bombardment begins next morning, bringing down long stretches of wall. French troops attack on multiple points. Some fight into the town, but British Marines and Turkish counterattacks throw them back. Lens is wounded in the neck. He narrowly escapes death. On 10th of May, Napoleon calls up Kleber's grenadiers for one last push. No one matched Kleber on a day of battle, Napoleon remarks, as the general leads with unshakable courage. Bonn arrives with support and is mortally wounded. French valor cannot overcome the defenders' firepower, ferocity, and skill. A near hit knocks Napoleon from his feet at a forward battery. He concedes his men have done all that can be asked. The Siege of Acre has failed, Napoleon's first major defeat. 4 months of campaigning have cost 4,500 killed and wounded, over 1/3 of his force. Yet he has neutralized the Syrian threat. On 20th of May, the army begins a 500-kilometer march back to Egypt. At Jaffa, Napoleon orders mercy killings. About 50 plague-stricken soldiers too weak to move are given lethal laudanum. He argues they'd suffer worse at enemy hands. The decision remains controversial. The army re-enters the desert-crushing heat, scarce water, shattered morale. After 25 days, on 14th of June, they reach Cairo. Napoleon stages triumphal parades. He needs the campaign seen as a stunning success, in Cairo and in France. Rest lasts only weeks. On 15th of July, news arrives. The long-expected Ottoman invasion has landed at Abu Qir. Napoleon moves at once, most of the Cairo garrison, Murat's cavalry, Kleber's division, about 10,000 men. At Abu Qir, the experienced Sayyid Mustafa Pasha holds 9,000 men in 2 defensive lines guarding the fortress. He plans to force the French to impale themselves on strong works. Napoleon is delighted. This enemy has nowhere to run. 25 of July, dawn. The first Ottoman line is unfinished. It collapses in minutes. French cavalry surges forward, cutting off the right flank. Pinned against the sea, soldiers panic and rush into the water toward ships. Thousands drown. With D'Estaing on the left, Lannes in the center, and Murat on the right, the French assault the second line. Well redoubted, it holds the first attack. As the French pull back, impatient Ottoman troops leave their works to pursue, and Murat pounces with a cavalry charge. The line is overrun. Murat bursts into the camp and, despite a gunshot wound to the face, captures Mustafa Pasha with a sword stroke. By 1 p.m., the Ottoman army no longer exists. 5,000 survivors hole up in the fortress and surrender 8 days later, Ugonsom 1 year after the destruction of the French fleet. Abu Qir is a great victory, partly restoring Napoleon's reputation after Acre. But news from Europe is grim. The second coalition, Britain, Russia, Austria, has formed. Their armies reverse French gains in Italy and threaten an invasion of the Republic. France's best general cannot stay marooned abroad. On the evening of 23rd August, Napoleon quietly boards a frigate at Alexandria with a small entourage, Berthier, Marmont, Lannes, Murat, and sails for France. He leaves his army a brief proclamation. News from Europe has made me decide to return to France. I leave General Kleber in command. The army will soon hear from me. At present, I can say no more. It cost me much to leave soldiers to whom I am so strongly attached. Kleber is not pleased with his sudden promotion. He left us with our trousers full, he says. When we get back to Europe, we'll box his ears. He never returns to Europe. Next summer, he is assassinated in Cairo by a young radical. The remnants of the French army surrender in 1801 after defeat at Alexandria and are repatriated by the British under the peace terms. Napoleon's Egyptian expedition cost France dearly. Its aims, always vague and opportunistic, became impossible after the Battle of the Nile. And for every daring feat or romantic tale, there were moments of brutality and suffering. Yet one legacy endures. Shortly before sailing for France, Napoleon was shown a stone slab unearthed near Rosetta. Dated to the 2nd century BCE, it carried a decree in Demotic, ancient Greek, and Egyptian hieroglyphs, the Rosetta Stone. By the terms of capitulation, the French handed it to the British. Today, it's in the British Museum. 2 decades of study later, it unlocked the lost language of hieroglyphs and revolutionized the study of ancient Egypt. This and other work by the French savants helped create a new discipline, Egyptology, the study of Egypt's distant past that still fascinates us today. Crossing the Mediterranean back to France took Napoleon 41 days. Twice fortune had favored him. He stopped once on Corsica, in the town of his birth, then sailed on to France to take the next step in his astonishing rise to power.